coming up on this episode of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast.
And you're also very right that sometimes it's not what we do, it's how we do it, because both are communications. Both of the communication. And the other thing I've always learned is that many times most communication is nonverbal. That it's not really the words, and as you were talking about, it's the attitude. You know, is it a positive attitude or is it a negative attitude? And both of those are communication. So we can say one thing with the words, but most of the times, and I think it was
Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD, where the doctor helps you unlock your full potential by equipping you with tools and knowledge in the areas of health, wealth, and wisdom, anchored in his experience as a business executive, a physician surveyor for the Joint Commission, a former mayor, and over 50 years of experience as a general surgeon. You've got questions, he's got answers. So let's get started. Here's Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD.
Well, sir, it's very, very great to have you being willing to share your very precious time with us. Particularly, Jesse and I was just talking, particularly since this is Father's Day weekend. I'm one of those people, I don't celebrate just one day. I either celebrate the weekend or the whole week.
That's right.
At the very least.
As you should. You know, certain groups get the whole month, which will remain nameless.
How about that?
Right.
So, Reverend Nickens, again, we are delighted absolutely to have you with us here today. And as I said before, excuse me, we appreciate you taking your precious time and sharing some of that with us on this very special holiday weekend. So thank you, sir, so much.
Dr. Choctaw, you are so gracious. I need to have you go with me for my self-esteem at all times. I need to have you connected to me. So, you know, sir, it is I who thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because I think God sets things up on purpose a certain way. Yeah, I think that there's a triple mutuality here. You know?
Yes, there is. I like that. I'm going to use that, a triple mutuality. I'll give you a credit. That makes me sound smart. Triple mutuality. Okay.
Can you hear all of the iron sharpening itself?
Oh, yeah. Well, look, at this point, I believe it's titanium sharpening titanium.
Yes. Indeed. Well, you know, now that I have you with us, I really want to commend you for your sermon. The other Sunday, I was sitting in the audience with my wife and I was sitting together, and it was literally one of the best sermons I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of sermons. I'm 76 years old, and I've heard a lot of sermons.
Thank you so much.
But what you did, and I tend to look at it, and this is just me now, but I tend to look at presentations, whether it's a sermon, whether it's a lecture, whatever. Yes, and I'm running through my head a number of different marks. Again, just my own weirdness, so to speak. And you hit every single mark imaginable, from letting everybody know what you were going to talk about, then talking about it, then telling everybody what you talked about.
Right.
And ending with what I call a tremendous flourish at the end. Yeah. You know, and it was just great on every single level. And even Jesse and I had talked about it subsequent to that.
That's right.
Thank you so much. You have no idea. Wow, what that does for me coming from both of you. You know, I mean, I don't take it lightly, and beyond. If I were to say I appreciate it, it wouldn't be a strong enough word. You know, I cherish your words of encouragement, and it means so much coming from you, because the preparation time, and I was hoping that it would reach someone, multiple people.
Sure.
when I was getting and to know that happened, especially from you all. I mean, God is no respecter of person, but I admire and respect both of you so much, so much, so much. And so thank you. I mean, bless you. That's all I can say. Like I said, you're going to make me cry. You edit this part out.
No, that's fine. One of the things you did, among other things, was that you addressed the issue. And maybe nobody else is even thinking about this but me, but you address the issue of your relationship with St. Stephen's. What you said, and you said it multiple times. So if folks didn't hear it the first time, they heard it. You said, "I am a member of St. Stephen's," and I'm paraphrasing now, but you said, "I am a member of St. Stephen's. I will always be a member of St. Stephen's," and you said 3 or 4 other things. And my wife and I both, because we talk a lot. We were saying, "Thank you, God." I mean, just because we would say, "Wow, what are they doing to him now?" Did you see him? No, I didn't see him. Well, where is he? I don't know. Right. So it was so gratifying to hear that it doesn't matter what they do to him. He decides what he does or what he doesn't do. You understand what I mean? That we're in charge of us, and for you to just lay that marker down there multiple times in case people didn't hear it the first time.
Everyone knew.
Yeah, and that came across, and it was a very respectful thing. It wasn't, it was. I want to give you some information that you may not have, but that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, exactly. I'm agreeing. Yeah.
I said, "Oh, thank you," because because my wife and I've been saying, I don't know what do you know? I don't know anything, but for you to address that was very good also.
I was so, I had, and then I guess Pastor Dockery did the preamble. He said something about it before, when he was at the podium before the sermon. And so I was grateful for that. And I told him, I said, I resigned. I told Jesse I resigned from the men's Sunday school because I just wasn't giving you all quality. And I'm not going to give my church crumbs. It's going to be all or nothing. And so over at Mount Zion, they're giving me more and more responsibilities. I have a certain, in fact, St. Stephen will be there tonight, Devin, and the male chorus. An event that I'm putting on a Father's Day. We have evening service. They have evening service every Saturday.
Okay.
I'm over for that, but I wanted to do a special Father's Day presentation with some men. So Devin and the male chorus are coming, and I threw a bunch of men together. So they've given me responsibilities that have taken me away. And
okay, good.
It's good, but then it's not because I'd like to be in mind because I have yet to set foot in one of their Sunday school classes. I'm always logged on with my class, and I couldn't keep. I can't drive there to St. Stephen and give you crumbs and leave early. That's not right. That's my church. So I just resigned. I told Sister Ray that, and so we were in agreement. But it is what it is. It's working out for whatever it's going to be. So St. Stephen will be at the house tonight, though. Sister Beams accepted, and Devin, the musician, will come for us. So. And Pastor Dockery knows Dr. Kennedy, who's the pastor out there, very well. They see each other over the years, So it's a close association. So anyway, rambling. I know it's not about that, but that's what's going on. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, no, thank you so much for bringing us up to date with that. So one of the things that I had thought about, and I'll see what you think about this. The other and most impressive thing about your presentation was the way you discussed the topic of reconciliation. And I was wondering whether you would be willing to maybe share some bits and parts of this for our podcast audience. I should also add Reverend Nickens has been one of the sponsors and supporters of our podcast from day one.
Yes.
And
thank you, sir.
Indeed. He was the first minister that we ever interviewed. he also behind the scenes is one of our we call him one of our technical advisors. That he sort of tunes in, and if something's a little off, he'll sort of shoot a message to Jesse, or get us back on schedule. So we're grateful on a number of different levels. But so you have so much to share. You're so talented. But I was wondering if you can share just some of the top points that you want to share about reconciliation and what it means and what it does and what works. And you use one of the stories in the Bible. I'll let you choose how you want to do that. But just give us your thoughts about reconciliation.
Reconciliation, yeah. And so we had talked on that day from the 50th chapter of Genesis. We were talking about Joseph, the story of Joseph. And so at the culmination of the story, even though his brothers had wronged him so by selling him, and at first they wanted to kill him, then they didn't kill him, and then they sold him into slavery. And all of these things he had to go through. He ended up being falsely accused of sexual harassment, being thrown in prison, and he was totally innocent.
Right.
These things. Even after that, when he finally had the position and authority where he could have dealt with his brothers in like fashion, he chose not to. And so to me, for us today, reconciliation, it's like forgiveness. It's not for the other person, it's for you. It's for us. And remove that weight and whatnot. And it doesn't matter whether the other person receives it well or not. It's for you to remove that weight and not be held bondage to those negative feelings that you have. So I saw what Joseph did this. And, he toyed, if you read the story, he toyed around with them, in the previous chapters, but nothing too malicious. And so at the end, he just forgave them and identified who he was. And then there was the crux of the sermon, what you meant for evil, God meant it for good, that many people would be saved. And so for me, reconciliation is just so important, even in families, relationships, co-workers, whatever, just for your own peace of mind. And not only that, because if we're supposed to be Christians, which literally means little Christs, if we're trying to do that, then how can we justify harboring resentment toward anyone? Now, that doesn't mean you be a doormat either, and that folks keep walking all over you, but you don't harbor that resentment and you forgive them and move on. And as I've heard in your masterclass, those endorphins and all of those things that are, negativity can do a number on your body from a physiological standpoint. And so when you're at peace, it helps you mentally, emotionally, and it even goes on the physical. So that's really what I was getting at without getting too much into that. But that's why it's a good thing behind the scenes for me, not only from a spiritual standpoint, but also from a metaphysical standpoint as well. And it's just what we should do anyway. It's just right.
I completely agree. And I think what a lot of people don't appreciate is that it puts you in charge of you. I think much of, I'll just use my patients in the past as an example, that they're sort of pushed and tossed back and forth, and they don't even know what's going on. But I would say to them, first, you need to just start saying no, just take control. And again, it's not controlling anybody else, it's taking control of you. And then starts looking at what works and what doesn't work for you. Just the conversation that you were having before about your decision about which Sunday school you taught, which church you attended, where it was basically you taking control of you. You saying, okay, this is working, this is not working, so I'm going to get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, and I'm going to concentrate on the stuff that does work and do that to my very best ability, with God's help. And I think that's what we all need to do, that once we do that, we do control those endorphins, and we do control those forces that affect our minds and our brain cells and everything else, and we lower our stress level. And that's always a good thing to have the stress level lowered. So, no, I appreciate that. And I think you had mentioned the difference between reconciliation and forgiveness, whereas reconciliation is two people, whereas forgiveness can just be one, theoretically.
Yeah, and reconciliation is when you, and there's biblical principles that speak to that. You go to the individual brother or your sister and try and reconcile, even if it's not without assigning blame whose fault it is or whatever.
Exactly, because it doesn't matter.
You don't want to lead in where you did this to me, but I forgive you, because that's not,
No.
that's not really it. Just leading in with that, and like you said, like you just alluded to in your last statement, you're in control, and the alternative to that is if you're not controlling it, it's controlling you.
Yes.
You don't ever want that. So reconciliation, and then sometimes it might be difficult. We've had this question asked in Sunday school before in the past. Well, what if that person has passed on, and I can't reconcile with them, and I can't get to them? And I think it was Reverend Collins that said, well, then you can have a mock meeting, have a chair or whatever, and symbolize that they are in it or whatever, and you can express just to go through the process of reconciliation if they're no longer with us or they have passed on. So, and that is the difference. Forgiveness is just the one person, and reconciliation when you both come together. And if they don't accept it, that's fine. Because I also think it's important your approach, because being human beings, sometimes we go in with an attitude, or we go in.
Yes,
you already defeated the purpose because your presentation was horrible.
Yes,
we have to be cognizant of that. We have to go in peaceable, not judgmental, and saying, well, I'm going to forgive you, like I just said, because you did. There's a better way to do it. A more peaceable way. You might not even address the issue.
Yes.
You can say, we've had some issues. It could be unnamed, and whatever, for whatever it is, I'd like us to just get past it and just say, I love you, this, that, and the other, and do it in such a way where you're not condescending,
Yes.
Looking down. And, we like to do that as people, we like to, so that's a bad thing. So, it sounds simplistic. And if I were to say it were easy, I would be lying, but it is possible. It is possible.
Right. And you're also very right that sometimes it's not what we do, it's how we do it, because both are communications. Both of the communication. And the other thing I've always learned is that many times most communication is nonverbal. That it's not really the words, and as you were talking about, it's the attitude. Is it a positive attitude or is it a negative attitude? And both of those are communication. So we can say one thing with the words, but most of the times, and I think it was Maya Angelou that said, I will forget what you said, I will forget what you did, but I will never forget how you made me feel.
Yes, that's true.
It's that attitude or that nonverbal communication that we send. And so my point is that everything is a communication. And as you were saying, we need to make sure that those two communications are in sync. That we aren't saying one way but countering that or undercutting that communication with something else. And many times most people will tend to look at the more negative one anyway and assume that that's the one that we really intend, whether that's true or not. But that's many times the way the world sort of works to some extent.
And sometimes those can become barriers to effective communication because they're focused on the negative opposed to moving forward in the positive.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It's all in the presentation. I posted a meme once, maybe twice, and to that point you both just made, it says that your actions speak so loudly I can't hear what you say.
Yes.
So there it is.
Right.
Anything, but folks are going to respond more to how and what you do.
Exactly. Because I think the belief is that that's the more natural or the more honest you. Or me, that many times the words are preformed and we think about it and we calculate or may not calculate, but those reactions many times are genuine, and that's really sort of like who we are to some extent. One of the things that some of, I'm sure many of our audience and some of our audience may recognize, that we've had Reverend Nickens on before, and for those of you who want to go back and look at his last podcast with us, it was about a year ago, last year, and the title was A Symphony of Music, if I remember correct. And so my point is, where are you with your musical journey, and how is that impacting you presently?
Well, I'm currently serving, as I said, at Mount Zion Church of Ontario under. Haven't moved my membership again.
Understood.
But Dr. Brian Kennedy. And so I've been fortunate enough to be given just more than a few tasks. So in the music ministry, one of being, as I said, I do Saturday evening service at 5 p.m. I'm over the music there. Second and third Sundays is the praise team, and I've been given that to have responsibility for the music and the band and the songs and all of that stuff for that. I'm also on any of other Sundays, I'll be on the organ, I'll be on the side instrument. I've been given charge of the men, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. I'm doing a pivot and getting a group of men together to sing. So excellent. And this is from scratch. They had a male chorus, but for whatever reason they fell off, and I did a pivot. Now I'm just getting a bunch of the deacons and whoever wants to sing, and we're gonna get through these 2 songs today. We're gonna sing. We're gonna do them. I have some other musicians coming in, and so that's very time consuming. But where I am in it is I'm hopefully transitioning into a more of an administrative role. Which has been discussed, but there's a process, yes. Because there's a minister of music now, and so. Even from him, he's working according to him at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, to make that transition. But as it stands now, I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Understood. And it's challenging, but if you're not being challenged, then you're not growing.
Right. And it's a process. I tell my kids all the time, you want that top spot, you got to work your way up to it. It doesn't just happen with the flick of a switch. but that's the way it's designed. Yeah.
Not only work, but work at a competent level, at a high level.
Yes.
So that's where we are now, and that's affording me an opportunity to do that. I've been well received. I have great rapport with the vocalists and the musicians and the AB team and deacons and all that, so there's no issues there. And I'm letting it happen. I'm just, if it doesn't happen, it's not for me, but if it's for me, then nothing can keep me from it. So
Understood.
But it's a joyous, it's different. It's different being at the helm because, when you're at the helm, good, bad, or ugly, you're you go down.
You're it.
You get the good stuff and you get the bad stuff too, and that's important. That's how they say how the sausage is made behind the scenes.
Right.
Blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it, and the different people on Sunday they see the finished product like, oh my God, we didn't get together and sing Kumbaya rehearsal and everything fell into place and kind of grind it out. So it's helping me. It's challenging me with patience, but also it's not difficult. It's just I enjoy it, but it's work, but it's not, it's not something out of my range. So
right. You're trained for it. You've developed for it. And again, I think God has sort of brought you along a certain way. And I think things that happen to us, even things that we don't understand, I do believe they happen for a reason. And I think all those things are setting you up for what's coming, whatever that is, type thing.
Well, I honestly believe that. But being human beings, we get impatient. And
Of course.
I'm like, well, the clock is ticking. You know, I'm not 40 or even 50. You know, but in God's time, you know, I've found that if you can't push things because when you push it, it never works out.
His clock is different from our clock.
His clock is different. Absolutely. So I'm excited, but at the same time, you know, I'm just ready to put the work in.
Yes.
You know, continue to put the work in. So that's what I'm doing out there, and it's moving along nicely. It's moving along nicely. But I love my church. That's why I haven't been able to go into their Sunday school. Not that they don't have a wonderful Sunday school, but I've got 22 years in the men's class.
Right.
Since what I'll say February 2002. Yeah. Reverend Collins and I sat down in there, and more than that in Sunday school. So I have history. You know,
Understood.
There's a level. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just moving along. Now, I'm just trying to be obedient. Doctor.
Well, you know, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to have multiple options, you know, and it's a blessing to be able to go between those different options and learn from it and gain experience from it, gain strength from it, and a lot of that is sort of what leadership is. You know, I mean, I think my point is I don't think this is coincidental. I don't think that it's just accidental that you end up being in these positions of leadership. I think these positions of leadership were already established for you. You didn't know about that, but the one above us did and says, okay, it's time. And then he moves you into those positions of leadership.
So I love you all both, and thank you. Thank you so much.
Same here. And thank you again for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your Father's Day weekend.
Yes, sir. And you all as well. You should be able to pick any place to eat because on Father's Day, it's wide open. On Mother's Day, you can't find a place. On Mother's Day.
That's true. The crowds are not there. All right. Take care now. Okay. Bye-bye.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD. Be sure to check out other great episodes covering areas of health, wealth, and wisdom at thwwp.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the books, blogs, and other literature in your preferred format. And don't forget to leave a review, subscribe, share, and support the podcast. That's at thwwp.com. You've been listening to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD.